We are so thrilled to be partnering with Hinge. Hinge is the dating app designed to be deleted. As you all know, I'm a huge Hinge advocate as I met my partner of almost 3 years on the app. Even before meeting him, Hinge was always my go-to app because I met more relationship-minded people here and had some great dates. Clearly, I haven't been on the app for a little while, but I re-downloaded it to check out some of the new features. One that stood out to me was the voice prompt, my best friend's take on why you should date me, where your friend can hype you up. Not only does this make the profile creation less daunting, but it's not always easy to see your own green flags. So to test it out, I asked Yue some fun prompts to get her take on what I could put if I was dating again. So the first one, how long have we known each other? What was your first impression of me and how has that changed?
Julie and I have known each other for almost 10 years. My first impression of Julie was that she's very social, but I've learned that she has a lot more depth to her beyond the social butterfly that she is.
My next prompt, what do you think are my green flags?
I would say she's deeply loyal. She believes in love, curious mindset, and she is fearlessly ambitious.
And then last but not least, what kind of friend am I?
Julie is the kind of friend who will always have your back, no matter what.
Damn, that feels nice to hear. So download Hinge and try voice prompts today. Then find someone worth deleting the app for. I was so excited to get my shipment from Last Bottle Wines in the mail the other day, full of incredible red wines, all from Napa Valley. I love wine tasting, so having this to my door couldn't be happier. Also, couldn't be more excited that today's episode is brought to you by Last Bottle Wines. If you don't know already, they're a Napa-based online wine shop with a twist. They offer just one handpicked wine per day until it sells out, and they're always at incredible prices. We're talking 30 to 70% off retail. And the best part is that there's no subscriptions, no fees, and no minimum purchase. And I could not be more excited to bring this offer right now because they're having a marathon sale, which is coming up March 28th and 29th. Even better, we're offering Dateable listeners 10% off your first order with code DATEABLE. So if you are a wine lover like me, this is a great time to join. And did I mention that shipping is 100% free? So what are you waiting for? Mark your calendar for March 28th and 29th or get on it earlier if you want. You can sign up at lastbottlewines.com and use code DATEABLE and find out why Last Bottle is the most fun way to discover and buy amazing wine.
The Dateable podcast features real stories from real people of how they make modern dating work or not. Each episode will not only offer you a new perspective on dating, but will also change the way you date. I'm your host, Yue, former dating coach turned dating sociologist. You'll also hear commentary from my producer, Julie Krafchick, and other surprise co-hosts. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Dateable, a show all about modern dating. We've talked about gingers before with a co-host. His name was Aaron. He loved gingers. That was his thing, right? But we haven't gone into this topic that deep yet. So our guest today, Jack, is going to tell us about what it's like to be a ginger and also to date as a ginger. Hi, Jack. How are you?
Hi, I'm great, and I'm happy to be your first ginger on the podcast. Very exciting.
So Julie early in the day did a quick Google search. So she did the autofill, you know, when you type in on Google and it says, she wrote, do gingers, and this is what popped up. Do gingers have blue eyes? Do gingers go bald? Do gingers go gray? Do gingers feel more pain? Have rights? Do gingers tan? Do they get gray hair? Feel less pain? Do they bleed more? Wow.
These were the autofills on Google.
I mean, I think every good research project should start with just autofill on Google because that gives you so many different directions
so
to take
many different directions of what people are searching for on the internet about gingers specifically. So before we get into your experience, we want to talk about some of the studies that have been done about gingers and dating. So according to a study published in Psychology Studies, found that men who have had red hair aren't treated the same as their blonde or brown-haired counterparts. So they had this experiment where they put men in different colored wigs to see who women would approach more. And the men who were in red wigs were rejected the most. And only 13.8% of them got women to dance with them on the dance floor, while men with black locks led the group with 35% success rate. This was also a similar problem for their lady counterparts as well. So what is interesting about this whole topic is that it's a little bit about, it's like, to me, it's very similar to racial identity, but to others, it could be similar to your body identity, your body issues, how you see yourself physically. Jack, what do you think about what we just talked about? You're in your mid-30s. You've lived in San Francisco for 3 years, originally from Minneapolis. You're currently single and actively going on dates. What is it like dating as a ginger?
Yeah, I mean, I think, a lot of that goes back to your identity as a redhead. It's really hard growing up as a redhead. Like, you talk about the groups that are bullied in like on the playground, and called every name in the book, from like Carrot Top to Fire Crotch, Copper Top. Like, I heard every single name growing up. As a kid, you just want to fit in. You don't want to be different. I think it's something that redheads embrace as they get older, as they kind of find themselves and become more confident. But I think those early formative years where you're on the playground and kids, how kids are, they just look for that one thing that's different about you and kind of pick on that and call you names about that. And so I think, a lot of redheads that I know grew up with sort of like less confidence because that was called out as like something that was not only different about them, but something that was kind of like inferior,
Oh, so when did you know you were a redhead? I didn't know I was Chinese until I moved to America.
It was something like that my family, my parents and like extended family, and especially like old people would call out constantly as like let's say a 5-6-year-old kid with bright red hair. What I remember most is like going to church with my family, and there'd be it was always the elderly people with like white hair, and they'd be like, oh, you've got such beautiful red hair. I bet those girls on the playground are all over you. Oh, and I'm like, what are you talking about? No, it's the exact opposite. I don't know how it was like 80 years ago, but times have changed, And so I'm like, why do all these adults think this red hair is like such a gift and a blessing? It's like, it's something terrible because as a kid, it's something you're picked on about.
They brought attention to it. So do we know where this ginger name stemmed from?
I don't know the origin of the name. I know there are a lot of slang terms globally. I think maybe it's like a British thing or something, but there was a South Park episode, now like 10 years ago or something, where like same situation. It's like there's like a redheaded kid at school and they're all picking on him, and like Cartman or whatever, comes up with this thing like gingers have no souls, and they're completely soulless like devil beings, and they can't go out in the sunshine because they'll burst into flames, because their skin is too light. But there's this special class of gingers, they call them daywalkers, and they can go out in the sun and blend in with the rest of you, but they're just as soulless as all the other ones.
Oh my God.
So I saw that, I was like, well, at least I'm a daywalker, I go out in the sunshine. I'm one of the more normal ones, but I'm still lumped into this category. And then like in the wake of that episode, there was like National Kick a Ginger Day.
Oh my God.
So, luckily I wasn't luckily I wasn't like in school for that, but if I feel for the kids on the playground when something like that comes out, when it's like, oh, go around and kick the redheaded kid.
Why have you guys not had like protests and stuff like that? Because it's bullying.
So interesting, because it's not like race that you could be like, oh, someone's being racist.
Right.
Like they're just like discriminating against your hair color, but
and it's kind of like
discrimination.
So you know how like everyone used to feel bad for blondes, they have dumb blonde jokes.
Right.
It's like, oh, blondes, like it's funny. They're just like they're airheads. It's this stereotype.
Yeah, but nobody's being mean to blondes. Like there's no kick a blonde day.
Right. It's like blonde jokes are relatively harmless. We are literally, there's like the phrase redheaded stepchild. Like I'm going to beat you like a redheaded stepchild.
Yeah. It's like very negative
violent
connotation.
It's totally different. And so that's something that formed my identity when I was younger. And then as I grew up and got more confident and became, like comfortable with who I was, now I embrace it, and I like that it makes me different, because now I think as you get older, you want to stand out in certain ways, especially in the dating scene. You want to embrace the things that make you different and make you special, if you are indeed confident about those things.
Were you born with red hair?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I know some blondes that were born as blondes and then they turned red later in life.
Yeah. I started out like pretty gingery, like like the pretty orange freckles, very pale skin, very red hair. And then as time has gone on, it's now like almost brunette. It's gotten pretty dark to the point where like in a dark bar, I kind of look brunette. I can pass.
Yeah. When we first met you, we didn't even know that you were redhead.
So I'm like an incognito, like under the radar redhead.
So before we go too far, I do want to say where the origins of ginger came from, because we actually did some research. No one is very clear. So the fact that you weren't sure is kind of out there, but there's a couple origins. There's the ginger nickname came down to the ginger root, that's used in cooking to give it a bit of a kick.
Just to refer to your fiery temper.
Yes.
So not so
Right.
much the looks of the ginger root, but that kick that it gives
But
it.
fiery temper also stems from the fact that you have red hair. So there's like a correspondent that like you're red. That's like a hot color, and there's like correlation with temper. Also, this ginger flavor food, which tends to show an auburn reddish tinge, like ginger cake, ginger bread, and ginger snaps.
So that's referring to the color.
Yes. And then the last one that came up was there's this American TV show from the 60s that was Gilligan's Island, where there was the character Ginger that was a redhead. So there's a thought that it kind of stems from that pop culture in the 60s.
Wasn't the show in black and white? No. How do they?
That's a good point.
Read this on the internet, but that is a really valid point.
Yeah, good point.
But
I
that was
never
like
thought
her
about that.
characteristic. I feel like it was like drawn a lot of
Yeah.
attention that she was a redhead.
So, with that in mind, how did this translate into you dating as a full-fledged adult? You've experienced this identity, you've experienced the bullying that came with it, and then what about later when you grew up?
I remember actually when I first started online dating, I remember very vividly like late 20s or something, and I was like, hey, I'm gonna make an OkCupid profile, like put myself out there, you know. I dated a bit organically, you know, and I like had some like decent relationships, but I was confident enough, like I want to get out there and like, you know, date a bunch of people and find out what I want. I mean, and this was a point when I was fully embracing the ginger angle. I'm like, yeah, I'm redhead and proud, you know. I feel like I am a, you know, moderately attractive and confident redheaded man, and I'm gonna go own it.
What
you know?
got you from being like thinking it was like a down thing to embracing it?
I think it was just really just like working on myself and becoming
Fucking owning it.
Yeah, I mean, well, growing up and becoming mature, like I started a career and finished grad school and did a lot of things to better myself. Just got into a lot of things that I felt like made me a well-developed person, and I think it's kind of like you said, you know, all these things are important to a mate, and I felt like I had a lot of those things. Maybe the red hair was the one like strike against me, but I was like, well, whatever, you know.
Yeah,
like,
I have everything
I
else.
have all these other things that I feel like are potentially appealing to a mate that I could, you know, that I can put out there, and I should be able to successfully date.
Got it.
You know.
So
back on
OkCupid.
Yeah, so I make this OkCupid profile. Part of me misses like the old days of like online dating, because you used to fill out a very extensive profile.
Oh, I know.
You know, you write all these things about yourself, and you could also read a lot of things about other people and really like kind of get to know them through their profile. Now it's literally like a headshot and like one line.
If
you know,
that.
I like to laugh. Or
Yeah,
something,
we're like
you
just
know.
all emojis.
Right, exactly. So this was back when these profiles were much more robust. And so you would like read a lot about this person, and then you would get down to the bottom. There were maybe like 10 key stats, and you would go, here's me, and then here's my match. And so you could specify what you were looking for. And so most people were pretty open-minded. You know, it'd be like, you know, you go to a girl's profile, and it'd be like, my ideal match. Okay, he is between 5'5" and 6'7".
Yeah.
You know, he's one of these 4 ethnicities. You know, he has facial hair or doesn't really matter. You know, he's within 50 miles of me, whatever. And then there was a hair color one. You know,
There was a hair
I
color
didn't know
back
this
in the day.
either.
and it was like, these are the different hair colors that I will accept in my match.
I guess you
Yeah.
never thought about it if you weren't
And-
ginger, right?
And so, you know, as these people were searching, you know, their search results would be reflected by what they were looking for. And so there were probably 10 different hair color boxes that you could check, you know.
What
And
are
so-
those?
Well, I can tell you because many people would check every single box except for red.
Wow.
Except they would not check red. And so I'm there like, oh, I just read this long profile all
You're
about
like,
this person.
"Damn it."
Everything checks out. It looks good. Hey, I've got all these things. And I get down to the hair color box, and there's like 9 things listed. And I'm like, where's red? Oh shit! They checked the red box.
Oh my
They
gosh.
checked like it's like light brown, dark brown, black, gray, bald. And I'm like,
hair
whoa. Like you did not check the red hair box, but you checked bald or gray? Against guys who like are bald or have gray hair, but I'm sitting here as a redhead like, okay, at some point I'm gonna be like 80 years old, and my hair's either gonna turn gray or fall out completely.
And you're
I'll
going to have
actually-
better chances
I'll become
then.
more attractive.
So
to, like,
why
some
do you
segment
think
of
this is the
population.
case? Like, why do you think women are anti-redheads?
It's a stereotype, or it's the image that you get. Like if someone tells you, imagine a redheaded man, like what comes to mind? Like Like the kid from Harry Potter, right?
Is he a redhead? I didn't.
No, not Harry Potter.
Oh,
Ron Weasley or what?
Oh,
is
the
that
one
his name?
without eyebrows. Like he has
Yeah,
really light
probably.
eyebrows. Yeah,
You know,
yeah. Okay.
But you imagine someone like pasty white skin,
Mm.
like just awkward looking and not like traditionally handsome. I think.
Mm.
Is it pop culture?
I think it's popular. Like how many movies show like the handsome, debonair, suave, redheaded gentleman, that the girl
Yeah.
falls for. Maybe it's like the dorky, awkward redheaded guy that gets the girl in the end because it's a rom-com, and she gets rid of the handsome jackass because there's this charming redhead who's like a down-to-earth guy, even though he's butt ugly and awkward.
Don't you feel like some Hollywood exec in like the 30s or 40s, his wife cheated on him with a redhead, and that's when he was like, "Fuck it! Every
Casted
movie I
this.
make from here, I'm gonna demonize redheads."
Probably.
Because where would it come from? That's so random.
It's so random.
Yeah, I think it's just the image that you get. So I've also encountered, like, usually on a first date or maybe a second date, women will say things like, I never thought I would be on a date with a redheaded guy.
Oh my
God.
or even like, you're actually like kind of attractive for a redhead.
Oh shit! They would say that to your
Yeah.
face.
Or like, I've never been attracted to a redheaded man, but you're kind of cute.
Wow.
And that's
Yeah.
supposed to be some kind of compliment,
Right? It's like this like backhanded kind of thing.
Wow. So
And-
how did you take
Yeah.
all this feedback into your dating life? Like, what did this do to your confidence?
Yeah.
I mean, dating is very competitive. There's a lot of people out there trying to date and playing to their strengths in various ways. So, part of me is like, well, I'll take it. It's a compliment. It might be backhanded. They might be saying, well, every other redhead is awkward and not someone I want to spend time with, but you are kind of cute, so I'll give you a chance.
It's like you're not awkward for an
Right.
engineer or something like
Yeah.
that.
So you're kind of like, well, I guess I'll take it. But it also kind of tells you something about that person, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're like, oh, they're actually kind of closed-minded and also rude. Why would you say
Yeah,
something like
If you
rude.
that?
said that
Yeah.
though, if you were like, you're kind of cute for a black man, like all hell would break loose.
Oh yeah.
Like, how is it really any
You'd
different?
be
It's
blasted
still-
on the internet.
Right.
No, that's what I'm saying. I'm so surprised you guys haven't had protests and like an uproar because you would never have like a kick an Asian person day.
Right.
It's
It
absurd
would be like
to me.
so fucked.
Right.
So fucked up. Anyway, okay.
Well, and you can probably sense, there are some similarities to like feeling like a maligned segment of the population. I would never make the connection to like an actual minority group that is actually
Right.
discriminated against
Mm.
because we have red hair. It's not like we're actually being discriminated against. It's just that I think we have this physical feature that most of the population feels like is unattractive, and when they think of somebody with this physical feature, they just imagine someone who's like awkward or not desirable, but I wouldn't make that connection to like being an actual minority group that
Right.
actually has problems with like discrimination, racism, that kind of thing.
Although this
Although
podcast you sent us before this to enlighten us about being a redhead,
Yeah.
there was this whole part on there how it was viewed as a genetic deformation. Did you remember that part?
Yeah, it's a recessive trait. I think they described it as a deformity.
Yeah.
But not a physical deformity, it's a deformity at the genetic level, a gene, and that's probably how most recessive traits are formed.
I mean, it's
right?
not like
I don't know.
anything lacking. It's just you're unique because there's
Yeah.
not that many many
That's
redheads.
what
in
my
the
mom
world.
told me, like ever since I was a child.
It's just very unique. It's those people that are like mixed race and
Yeah.
they have green eyes for some
Right.
reason, and none of their relatives do. It's a recessive gene. It should be celebrated.
Right.
So, with that, obviously these women were not checking off, or they're not checking the red hair box. What about the women who were? What was that like? Did you find women who only checked the red hair box?
No, definitely did not find that. The interesting thing was I would get messages from the women who did not check the red box. I'd be browsing and I'd see someone like who checked every box but the red box, and I'd be like, okay, whatever, next. I'm like, I move on. I'd actually get a message from them like the next day, and they'd be like, hi, how you doing? Whatever, like icebreaker, And sometimes I would call it out, and not in like a bitter way, like I'm just bitter. You didn't check the red box. It was just kind of like, hey, let's have a conversation. You seem interesting. But by the way, I couldn't help but notice you checked every hair color box except
Right.
for red. What's up with that? And that was usually when I would get those kind of backhanded,
Oh.
I've never met a redheaded guy I thought was attractive, and I can't envision really ever meeting one that I would be attracted to, so I just didn't check that box.
What
But,
about apps now where there isn't that box?
I mean, it's not it's not the kind of thing where, like, I'm sure you guys know, like on apps, women will say, if you're under 6 feet tall, don't bother, you know?
Yeah.
Or like, or other deal breakers, but usually it's height.
Mm-hmm.
They're never saying, if you have red hair, then don't message me. It's
Right.
not something that's called out at that level. But I think if a survey is put in front of them and they're like, which hair colors would you prefer to date, then it comes down at the bottom.
Do you look like you have red hair in your profile?
Yes. There might be a filter applied where it's like toned down a little bit, tone down
Dirty blonde.
Yeah, tone down the ginge until you know they're into
blonde.
it. But yeah, as far as like being into it, like around the time I was on OkCupid, I did have sort of the intersection. So I listened to your podcast about dating Asians as well.
Yellow fever.
Yellow fever, yeah. So I dated an Asian girl in my mid-20s. So yeah, I'm like, a kid growing up in Minnesota, which like there are like
some,
Asian, it's like white and maybe a couple. So I dated one of them. So we're on like first or second date. She's like, okay, wait, have you ever dated an Asian girl before? Because I'm this white redheaded dude, from the Midwest, and I'm like, no. She's like, well, the main thing is if you ever want to date an Asian girl after me, you cannot tell them that you dated an Asian before. I'm like, what are you talking about? What's the big deal? And she's like, well, like we have this radar, me and all my Asian girlfriends, we have this radar, like, and I've heard you say this, like, the last 3 girls you dated were Asian.
Yeah.
We don't have anything to do with it.
Deal breaker.
Yeah. We dated for close to a year, and then she actually moved away. She moved to Hong Kong.
Oh, okay.
So we broke up. But we kind of stayed in touch. It was one of those things, like, we still talked, and she invited me to visit her, like, after maybe a year went by. We were apart for about a year, just, like, doing our own thing. And it did happen that, like, in that year, I dated a few other Asian girls. Okay? Yeah. Like I broke up. We broke up.
You opened Pandora's box.
Right, exactly. So, like,
can't go back.
She moved, like, my ex moves to Hong Kong, and I go on this 1 year sort of tear, and I'm on OkCupid, and, no one wants to date the redhead anyway. But I'm out there, like, putting myself out there. And I ended up meeting, like some women who ended up being Asian and whatever, short-term things. So after a year, she's like, come and visit me in Hong Kong. I miss you, and I want to reconnect. And I was like, yeah, so do I. So I go out to Hong Kong, and literally in the first hour that I'm there, she's like, we need to talk. And I was like, I just flew like 15 hours, what's so urgent? And she's like, I've been looking at your Facebook over the last year, and I couldn't help but notice there's a lot of like Changs and Chans and Wongs, and like, where are all these Asian women coming from? And so she was giving me shit about it. For about a week while we're like in Hong Kong, like we're walking around, like, and she's like, oh, you think she's hot? You think she's hot?
Oh, no.
You must love being surrounded by all these beautiful Asian women. The last day in Hong Kong, we're going to this bar, and she's like, hey, I just want to let you know, this bar tonight, there's going to be this guy that I dated, first moved to Hong Kong, and like, just be cool about it. Of course, I'm not like jealous. So we're chilling in this bar, and this guy walks in, and she's like, oh, that's the guy. This guy I dated. I was like, yo, he's a white guy? He walks under the light. He's a fucking redhead.
Boom.
Total ginge, like more gingery than me.
Boom.
What about after him? Do you know if there's
no
more?
idea? Well, no, I do. She's married now, and he's
To a
like,
ginger?
he's pale. He's not maybe brunette, maybe a little like strawberry, but. And I was like, okay, wait, you're like talking to me about dating another Asian girl after you.
Yeah.
We have Asians in Minnesota. I think you found the one redheaded guy in Hong Kong,
Yeah.
and you dated him. Like it's a supply and demand thing, right?
Yeah.
So how many of them are there? And I think you found the only redheaded dude.
Oh my god.
So that was my first experience with like, okay, either there is an attraction out there to redheaded men, on the part of some like certain women, or it's one of those like once you go red,
Oh
you
yeah.
know, another.
And then you just stay in bed.
Right.
I don't know.
So that's funny. My whole dating career, I've wanted to I've been trying to come up with some kind of once you go black, you never go back.
There
but
you go.
for redheads,
You got it. You got it.
To all of your listeners,
Once you go red, you stay in bed.
I love it.
I like it.
So we have a friend. He has a legit ginger fetish. Like
Mhm.
I wouldn't. Maybe fetish is the right word, but he has a preference for gingers.
And he's a ginger himself.
And he
Proud
dates
ginger.
men
So-
or women?
He dates men. Loves
He
gingers.
loves Prince Harry,
Okay.
for reference.
Have you had any encounters of a woman that's solely like? I know your ex had another, but have you ever met anyone that's like date after date is ginger?
I will say that I think the perception of ginger men versus ginger women is different.
Tell us.
Like,
Yeah.
so the ginger woman, as women typically are sexualized, you know, it's like, oh, the sexy raven hair. Raven?
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
What's
Yeah.
like Jessica Rabbit?
Yeah.
yeah,
That's
it's like
like a
Jessica Rabbit,
stereotype.
maybe like a Lindsay Lohan at one point.
Amy Adams dyed her hair to get more jobs in Hollywood.
Well,
she was blonde.
there was
before.
something I read that doing extensive research for this that redhead women have more sex than brunettes and blondes.
Oh.
Again,
That's
I don't
intriguing.
know how true that is or where that data point came from, but
Yeah, I think like when they tell you, oh, imagine a redheaded woman, you know, guys will imagine like red hair, green eyes, you know, like pale skin but very beautiful, you know. Like this long flowing red hair, you know, and when you think of the male redhead, it's like Carrot Top.
what about Pippi Longstocking? I feel like that's not a positive red.
I think that image has evolved, you know. Now it's like they're more
So maybe
sexy.
to resolve this, we just have to find a really hot
redhead,
ginger
yeah.
celebrity
Yeah.
to be the pioneer. for
We
all
need
of
good
this.
role models. Yeah, actually, when the Prince Harry thing happened, my sister told me that I should put on my Bumble profile like an AB, like my face next to Prince Harry. She's like, you got to get some of that magic.
You
know,
know
it's
what?
like,
He really put gingers on the map.
he totally did.
I think I absolutely think he did, and he's not even the best looking ginger out there, but he definitely put you guys on the map.
He gave us street cred.
Yeah,
He's like, well, Meghan Markle sees something in this guy. Like, maybe I should stand test the waters.
Are there any like dating apps for gingers?
Oh yeah,
Yes,
there is.
And
but
I
that's
only
gingers
know.
only dating gingers.
Yeah. But I only know about that because I did go on one date in my entire dating career where the woman was into redheads.
Okay.
And and this was, I had to go all the way to Paris actually to find this person.
Worth it.
And I haven't seen her since. I have not encountered anyone since then. But yeah, I was spending a week in Paris. I was kind of traveling solo. I'm like, what? Maybe I'll just get on Tinder and see, you know, maybe I'll have a drink with the local, you know, it's like, just see how it goes. And so I started swiping, you know, and I matched with this, she was like dark, kind of like Israeli, living in Paris, designing like Louis Vuitton bags or something. And it sounded like, you know, it's okay, she's cool. She sounds interesting. Yeah. I could definitely at least go have a drink with her. So we meet up at this little bistro, you know, we're like, in the first 5 minutes, she basically cuts the small talk. And she's like, there's a reason why I swiped right on you specifically. And I'm like, super intrigued. Like, I'm racking my brain like, oh my God, what's my first picture? What do I have on that profile that someone would immediately latch onto? Yeah, what do I list that would immediately make someone be like, I want to have a drink with this guy now? Because that's never happened. She's like, there's something that really, really turned me on to you. I was like, oh my God, what was it? I mean, I'm like clueless. And she goes, I am extremely attracted to redheaded men, and I can't get enough of them.
Wow. So she would have checked that box like triple
Only
time.
that box.
And only that
box.
box.
Yeah. This was the girl I had been looking for since my OkCupid days.
Yeah,
who
where has
checked,
she been?
Ecstatically checked, you know.
So how'd you feel when she kind of, in a way, objectified you?
Yeah.
I think at first I felt really good.
You're like, this has never happened. This
and
is
I'm sure
amazing.
she's hot, right?
Yeah. She was hot. And I'm sitting there like, but in the back of my mind, you know, there's like the PC part of your mind that's like, I'm being objectified. But then there's like the man part that you're like, yeah, baby, just objectify me.
Right.
I don't care what it, you know, you get to a date in the first 5 minutes, she's like, you have this sexy red hair and I can't get enough. And you're like, yeah, I do, finally.
I have more down there, too.
Yeah, right. And so she's sitting there like, I am only attracted to redheaded men. Red hair just does something for me that nothing else does. I'm still just like flabbergasted. I'm staring at her like you've got it backwards. This like red hair doesn't attract women. It repels women. And I know because I've been a redhead my whole life. Get me, finally. Someone understands.
I feel bad for her though in a way because there's so few redheads out there. Her like picking is so slim.
Yeah,
to
but then she probably gets all of them
That's
too.
true.
So.
That's
I think
true.
she cleans up.
She cleans
totally.
up.
Yeah. So here I was, you know, I've been only in town for like 3 days, and she found me, and so we're sitting there for like, you know, in the first 5 minutes, this comes up, and I was like, so I have so many questions for you. I want to know, how did this start? When did you know you had a ginger fetish? Can I call it a fetish? Is that okay? You know? Because she was like owning it, embracing it, and so my first question was, how do you feed your urge with a constant
Yeah.
supply
Right.
of redheaded gentlemen? How do you find these guys? And because clearly, like Tinder is just a crapshoot. If we're 2 or 3% of the population,
Right.
you're doing a lot of swiping.
You're
That's what I
swiping for like
mean.
5
Swiping a
hours
lot,
before
It's
you
gonna
find
be
one.
hard to find
Yeah,
someone.
like I hope you have like the premium account that lets you just like scroll really fast.
through every
Or a
country
bot.
in the
Yeah.
Or a
world.
bot,
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're swiping like day and night.
Yeah.
No wonder in the first 5 minutes she dropped that on me because she's probably been swiping like around
Yeah.
the clock.
For like months.
Finally, I get this jackass in here.
I got one. I got one.
Chase, I swiped all around the clock. I found you, and we both know why we're here. So let's get down to business. So my first question was, how do you find this steady stream of redheaded men to feed your desires? She kind of leans in, like kind of looks around. It's like, make sure no one's listening. And she's like, there's a website. It's a website you can go to. And I wasn't surprised, but I was still like, I've never heard of I've never heard of a redheaded dating website,
No.
And I'm like, okay, I'm totally listening at this point. And she's like, take out your phone and type in hotforginger.com.
Ooh,
my
is it the number
God.
4 or spelled out 4?
FOR.
Okay.
Hotforginger.com.
Okay. I'm going on it now.
And so it turns out she went on this website. She must have Googled it and found it, but she's like, that's the main place that I go to find redheaded men. The problem is it's only for ginger on ginger action.
Oh,
it's for
G-on-G.
redheads. Yeah, it's for redheads to date other redheads.
Yeah.
I think it was probably started by a redhead who was like, we're going extinct, guys. We got to
Right,
continue.
yeah, exactly.
We need to make more redheads.
Like
Because,
pandas.
yeah. Because you got like some of you guys are going on dating Asian women, or like we're all
Right.
it's a melting pot.
We gotta
And
keep it in.
Right, we gotta keep these redheads going. So I think that was the point of the site. She was like super depressed when she found it. She's like I tried to make an account. Like she had found this site that has all the men she wants, and
They rejected her.
she's like, create account, and it's like, okay, what's your account name? And she's like, Ginger Lover 69 or something. And it's like, okay, what's your height? Blah blah blah. Where do you live? Blah blah blah. What hair color do you have? And she checked black, and it immediately booted her out of the site.
Oh shit, that's a trick then.
Yeah. So it's almost like poetic justice. I was like, you mean you didn't check the red hair box?
It all comes back to checking that box, doesn't it?
So it kicked her out of the site, and it was like, we're sorry. Hotforginger.com is only for gingers to meet other gingers. You're not allowed on this site.
So how do you feel about ginger girls?
Yeah.
Would you go on Hot for Ginger?
By the way, their hashtags are the 2% and Hot for Ginger. Those are their hashtags.
Hot for Ginger, yeah.
The 2%.
And to be honest, since I've gone back to that site, the last time I went, it said hotforginger.com, the dating site for gingers and those who love them.
That's what it says.
So I think
That's misleading.
I think they realized there was too much of a niche. They're like, there aren't enough gingers
so
that want to
she's
date
on
other
there
gingers.
now.
Yeah, now
She's
she's
ready.
totally on there.
Okay, so
I
back to, how do you feel about ginger women?
Let's take a quick break and get intimate for a sec. For those of you who know me, you know that I don't like to wear real bras. I wear sports bras all the time because I really just dislike the bra buying experience. Well, it's like Harper Wilde heard me complaining or something and was like, hey, we'll be your fairy bra mother and simplify the bra shopping experience. So here's how they do it. They have 3 styles for you to choose from: t-shirt, push-up, and strapless, and they all come in 3 different shades of nude and 1 black. Their bra straps adjust in the front and come with a racer back hook to ensure a proper fit. And get this, they offer free at-home try-ons where you can try 3 different bras for a week at no charge. I just got my first Harper Wilde bra, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but I've stopped wearing my sports bras. It's so comfortable that I forget I even have it on. It's time to start lifting up your ladies with Harper Wilde. Go to harperwilde.com/dateable to get started today with a free at-home try-on and get a free bra wash bag. Make sure to select 3 bras to try on, and don't forget to add the wash bag to your cart too. That's Harper Wilde, spelled WILDE.com/DATEABLE to try on 3 bras at home for free and receive a free gift. Now, back to the show.
Okay, so back to, how do you feel about ginger women?
I don't think I've ever dated a ginger.
Is that because you
Really?
haven't come in contact, or has it been
Or
like
do
a
you have
conscious?
stereotypes?
I don't have stereotypes. I mean, I am one, so I can tell you what unless they're specific, like
For
redheaded.
women.
This sounds super ironic based on everything I've said, but I've never been attracted to a redheaded woman that I've gone on a date with.
Interesting.
And I'm not saying they're not out there. I've seen redheaded women, like maybe on apps or in the street, that I find attractive.
But I guess it's the same. I'm gonna put this back into perspective. If I was like, I went on a date with like two guys with brown hair, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I just wasn't attracted to them. The population and sample size is just so small with redheads. It wasn't like you were going on like hundreds of dates.
We're a very small part of the population. Yeah. So maybe
2%.
Yeah. So maybe the scale of dates I've had with redheads is in proportion to how they are in the population. To be honest with you, I tend to date non-white women.
Okay.
And I don't know, I've like done some reflecting on this. Like, I think part of it is like I grew up with very pale skin. I saw how that was not attractive to people, and I kind of hated it as growing up, And growing up, I was very attracted to women who had like a nice tan or like darker skin,
like opposite.
Yeah, like so to me like darker skin and darker features and like things that I didn't have that I sort of like found unattractive, like those features are attractive to me.
So on this site it says you can either chat with each other as in two gingers or chat with gingerphiles. So those are the people who only like gingers. This website would never fly for anything that's a race, right?
No.
Can you imagine it was like hot for Asian? That'd be a porn site. That would not be a dating site.
Or like what's it called? Ginger files?
Ginger files. Like an Asian file? Like, hell no.
I feel like this woman you met in France files a complaint or a lawsuit to them.
So that's interesting because there's a site for Asians to date other Asians.
Yeah.
There's a site for
East meets East.
Yep.
Right.
Jews like J-Date.
There's J-Date. Yeah, there's like what is it, black singles or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like it's acceptable for certain groups to date each other. But if you're like, I want to date someone from this group, then that becomes creepy or like or not cool.
But we also know people who've been on J-Date who aren't Jewish, who just want to date a nice Jewish girl.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think this is a good segue to takeaways, which is interesting because I think this whole thing persists. Like, we've gone back and forth. Like, how is this like race and how is it different? And it's obviously clearly different. Like you said, it's not like a marginalized group in that sense, but it is a marginalized group in another way. And like, there's definitely a lot of overlap of how people are treated. And I think like just because it isn't race doesn't mean that like there should be such an unconscious bias on it. Not to say that someone may have that, because that always happens anyways. Like, even with race, people still have that bias, even though you shouldn't have it. So it's just interesting that it's like there's such a parallel, but also it is so different too.
I see so many parallels. I see so much of it because I think the reason why, I mean, speaking as an Asian woman, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. If a guy told me I'm his first Asian, then I would say he's checking the boxes right now. He's just going down the list. He's not serious about me. But if he's only dated Asian, then I question his taste. Like, this could have been any sort of Asian. Yep. So I would probably say the same about your dating situation. If someone just brings up the fact they're only attracted to you for this one thing you have no control over, then it kind of makes it not as meaningful.
And I can finish that thought by finishing the story of the girl in Paris who liked me just for my red hair. I mean, that came up in the first 5 minutes. For a couple minutes, I was kind of basking in the adoration, like, oh, finally someone who, loves red hair as much as the old ladies back in church did, when I was a kid. It turned out we actually didn't have anything else to talk about. And we didn't really have anything else in common, like, and maybe we did, but the fact that she had brought that up immediately kind of threw the whole date off. Like, the rest of the date, it was just kind of like sort of awkward jokes about, oh, you're into redheads, and it's just,
it became
like,
the thing.
The thing, and it kept kind of going back to that, and it was something we couldn't really get past, because she just threw that out there, like, I'm here because I love redheads, and I'm like, okay, that's cool. So what else do you like?
Right.
I tell guy friends that story, and they're like, oh, dude, like, so you met this hot Israeli girl in Paris, like, do you guys totally bang after that? Because she just told you she loves redheads, and I'm like, no, honestly, we had kind of an awkward conversation, and it just kept going back to this awkward thing about her having this fetish for redheads, and then we kind of parted ways because we never really connected or had real chemistry.
Yeah.
It just felt kind of strange.
That's a good takeaway too. Is it like you could have a preference for something, but if
Yeah.
it's really the only foundation that you're
Right.
going off of something, like maybe evaluate why you're actually doing that.
Yeah, if that's what you're leading with,
Right.
that's never a great way to get into someone's pants. I don't know.
Right.
I just feel like there's so many ways we can approach someone, and by approaching someone based purely on their physical looks,
Yeah.
it's never the right way. Even if it's just completely superficial, everyone loves a good compliment, but what makes you attracted to someone is not just their physical looks, right?
Right. I'm just thinking like if this was like weight or like height or anything else, like if they were like, oh, I have a short complex or like something like that, it would just be so awkward.
Oh, like my friends in New York who are all plus size women, and they call these men that love them chubby chasers because they would actually be in this group. It's a group called Chubby Chasers. And they said, it's fine because these men obviously really love the way they look, but at the same time, they're very much objectified and fetishized.
Right. And it's interesting because I've never thought about hair in the same qualities.
Yeah.
Like I think we always hear men complain, oh, women don't like me because I'm under 6 feet, or women complain like, oh, I'm not attracted to men because I'm not a size 0 or whatever. But we've never like thought about hair color as much.
Jack, have you ever thought about dyeing your hair at any point?
Never. I don't know what color I would dye, and I don't think I would feel like myself.
Right.
Because at this point, it's part of my identity. I kind of would feel like I was not being true to myself. I've come a long ways in kind of accepting that and having it be a part of who I am and kind of owning it. So if I were to like dye it black or something, it would kind of be like, I recognize that this is a handicap in the dating world, so I'm just going to make my chances better and blend in with everybody else, you know, and that's not what I'm about.
Well, there's like this sense of owning it, right? Like I think there's the whole body positivity movement is like owning what you look like. And in a way, this is similar of like, this is the hair I was given, right?
Yeah.
Like you just were saying, I would be a different person if I had different hair color.
Right.
And
Yeah.
that's not who I am.
It just shows you also it's part of who we are, but also we're just unique identities. So Jack, you are who you are, not because you're a redhead, but because of everything you've experienced in your life. So when we approach people in dating, we also approach them as an individual, not as a group. So I get this question a lot because when I used to do dating coaching, I would get questions like, oh, I want to date American women. What is that like? Can you give me some pointers? That would be like one of the top questions I get. Or 2, I'm in Hong Kong for 2 weeks. I really want to meet some nice Asian girls. How do I meet them? And what do I say to them? You can't group people like that because everyone's so different.
Absolutely. I mean, like if someone asked me what's it like to date redheaded men, I have no idea.
No idea.
I mean, first, that we're a small segment of the population. I don't know that many other, like, I know a small handful of other redheaded guys, but they're all very different.
And you've never dated a redheaded
I've never dated a redheaded man.
So you wouldn't know.
I wouldn't know. And I don't think they would all have similar dating styles. I think everyone, just like you said, despite how we may look alike, but we're all totally different people.
Yeah.
See, that's just not a compliment if someone says, oh, I'm really into you because I love blondes.
Right.
Well, that's not a compliment. So stop using that.
Well, it's nothing to do with you at all.
Exactly.
Yeah. A feature you have. Yeah. And I think the last thing is like, I think in general, any looks, whether it's a positive or a negative, just like, it's just as offensive in a way.
Yeah.
Like, no matter how it is, like the chubby chasers that you were talking about, or redheads singling them out because of that. Like, it's just not a great way to start anything off.
I mean, I would add to that. I think it's okay to have a preference for what you're attracted to physically. You know, people take it the wrong way or express it the wrong way when they're like, oh, I'm really into blondes, or I'm really into, this kind of girl. It's normal, I think, to be attracted to certain physical features.
Yep.
Like you might be physically attracted to people with blonde hair, or people with a certain build or certain height, or or maybe even certain ethnicities that have certain physical features that you find attractive. But I think where it crosses the line is when you go, oh, people who are Asian all have this kind of personality, and I like that.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how that girl, that first girl, explained it to me. She's like, she's like, where kind of the fetish comes in, whether it is with Asians or redheads or whatever other group, is if you apply some kind of expectation for their personality.
Yeah.
Because they're part of that group. You
Right.
can't generalize personality attributes based on physical attributes.
Well, I agree that people could have preferences. However, I do think it's limiting. Like, I remember one of our guests saying that she actually only liked blondes and redheads. And I think, like, people are going to have preferences and you can never, like, sway people from them.
Yeah.
But also, I guess would suggest people opening up preferences wherever they can and not limiting people either.
I think it comes down to media and what we're exposed to. We are attracted to certain features because that's what we've been exposed to as attractive growing up. When you think of a redhead, you think of Carrot Top, which is who I think of, unfortunately. Maybe it's time to Google hot ginger men. There's so many of them. Do it.
I want to do it. I want to do it.
I was looking at them the other day and I was like, damn.
I'm sure
there's so many out there. It's just that they're not at the forefront, when it comes to what we see on TV and in the movies, but they're out there. So it's about, again.
Wow. There's some hot ginger men out here. That guy's ripped.
Right?
Listeners, do a Google search.
Do a Google search. Because
hot ginger men.
Every time you find yourself attracted to a certain type, that's when you start questioning your type. Why is it that I like this type? Why is it that I really like these features? And start going backwards. Start thinking about, what are some other features I could open myself up to, right? That's how you date with an open mind, because you only know what you know. So expand your knowledge base.
Awesome. Do we have time for a quick question of the day?
We sure do.
Okay, this comes from Lauren. I go out all the time with my friend Christy, who is blonde, blue-eyed, with gigantic boobs.
Ooh.
Guys hit on her all the time. Sometimes I feel invisible around her because of all the attention she gets. I'm a brunette who is a bit more plain. I'm thinking about dyeing my hair blonder, but I'd never changed my hairstyle or color before. Do you think I should just go for it?
Oh my goodness. I remember when I was living in New York, I had a really good friend, Carrie, who I'd always go out with. Blonde, blue-eyed, gigantic boobs.
Did you submit this question?
Yes, I'm Lauren. Help, guys. Give me some advice. And I remember we'd go to bars. We go to the same bars because that's, you go to your neighborhood bar. And she would get hit on constantly just by like everybody because one, she's beautiful, but two, she just had this like really sunny personality. So people loved talking to her. And I remember one day I went into the same bar by myself. She wasn't with me. And the same guys who hit on her started hitting on me. And I would ask them, I've seen you before, I've talked to you, and they had no recollection of who I was because I was always the afterthought or the person being overshadowed by her. Not that I didn't have any resentment towards her, but then I was like, how do I make myself more of a attention-grabbing person next to someone who is very, like, who does get a lot of attention?
Right.
I've struggled with that quite a bit in my life.
Yeah. I think it's less about the hair color and more about just the overall vibe that's probably being given out, kind of similar to what you just said. Like, even from hearing this, it sounds like this very, like, I'm average, I'm boring, like that situation going on. So I don't think you should change your hair color to, like, be blonde and hot, but maybe like changing your hairstyle or like making a little tweak could give a little extra confidence and make you feel refreshed. So if that's the case, I think go for it, but don't go for it just to like make yourself fit another stereotype.
Well, studies also show that blondes do get hit on the most, blonde men and women, because we are attracted to shiny objects, and blonde is the closest color to shiny objects. It's just what our eyes are drawn to. So I wouldn't say, if you're looking, it depends on what your end goal is. If you're looking for more attention, sure, dye your hair blonde or shiny. But if the end goal is to meet someone that you really click with, that person will find you beyond whoever is around you, right? So you just have to, again, what Julie was saying, carry that confidence. But also, if you're somewhere, if you always wear dark colors, this is just psychologically, we're attracted to lighter colors when we go out. Our eyes naturally go that way. So just wear lighter colors. White is a great color for people to wear when they go out and want some attention.
So there's other ways you could potentially do it without
changing your hair.
Yes. Or maybe make sure you're smiling too, opposed to like sitting in the back.
Show your white teeth.
I could just, I'm not, again, I don't know because I haven't seen this interaction, but if you're like constantly like looking at your friend getting attention, you might not be like the peppiest, happiest version of yourself.
True, exactly.
And if you're looking to have more sex, wasn't the finding redheaded women?
So you should dye your hair red?
I mean, I'm just saying, like you said, depending on your objective for sex, I'd give red hair a try.
That's true. Dye your hair red. Actually, that is why not?
Do you have any advice for Lauren, Jack, as a male?
Other than dye your hair red?
Have you ever experienced a situation like that where you felt like you were overshadowed by a friend that you were going out with?
Yeah, probably. I mean, I think being a redheaded man, sometimes you do feel like it is one of those qualities where, like, yeah, if you're at the bar with 3 or 4 other guys, you're the one with red hair. And it's sort of like it's something that, like Lauren is saying, maybe you feel like it's something that you'll get less attention, because of that. I mean, that being said, I don't really pick up girls at bars, so I don't really worry too much about that. But yeah, I could see how she feels next to her friend. Like it probably boils down to like, confidence, being confident and owning what you have and being like, this is the person that I am. I'm happy with that person and I'm going to put it out there.
Right. And she might find even if she dyes her hair blonde but doesn't do what you just said, that might not actually help.
Yeah, because then her hair would be fried too. Just
right.
Double
so
negative.
I guess the advice is look to yourself first and then see if there's other tweaks you can make before dyeing the hair.
A lot of it is it's the confidence and the vibe that you're giving off that comes from how you feel about yourself.
Right.
All right. Any other takeaways for a very enlightening discussion? I would love to look at our Google search history. Someone would think we have the biggest ginger fetish right now.
I think you need to get a sponsorship from hotforginger.com too. How many times I mentioned that?
That's true. This episode is sponsored by Hot. No, just kidding.
When you come over next, I'm going to have hot ginger men plastered all over my walls.
Amazing.
It's going to be
we're going to help
ginger dungeon.
Change this epidemic. Like we're going to make ginger men hot. Single-handedly.
Everyone who walks in here should walk out being like, damn, I need to go date a ginger right now.
But it's supply and demand, you were saying. So you're the only one within a 15-mile radius right now. Right. So you get all of them.
Yeah, but I think what I'm saying is there's not a lot of supply, also not a lot of demand. So I need you guys' help. I need your help to boost that demand, because then we've got a high demand, low supply thing, and that's great.
That's best for you.
It's all economics, people. At the end of the day, it's all economics.
And recessive genes.
Do you have a similar story, our listeners? We love to hear from you. Something that you can relate to with Jack's story, or we love hearing these stories about a different perspective and a different experience that we're just not used to hearing on a daily basis. And also, we're booking guests for future seasons. If you'd like to be a guest on our show, just go to dateablepodcast.com. Shall we wrap this up?
Stay dateable.
Your action item for this week is to list out the stereotypes you have of other people. Be painfully honest with yourself because you're the only one who gets to see this list. Next, go through each stereotype and try to think of why you think this way. Does it objectively make sense? And has it in any way prompted the way you date? Sometimes when we break down our own unconscious bias, we gain a different perspective on what we've always believed to be the truth. Want to continue the conversation? First, tag us in any post with hashtag #StayDateable. Then head on over to our website, dateablepodcast.com. There you'll find all the episodes as well as articles, videos, and our coaching services with vetted industry experts. You can also find our premium Why series, where we dissect, analyze, and offer solutions to some of the most common dating conundrums. To connect with us, find Dateable Podcast on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We're also downloadable on Spotify, iTunes, and other podcast platforms. Your feedback is valuable to us, so don't forget to leave us a review on iTunes. And most importantly, remember to stay dateable.